Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer. You know, Hitler said to Stalin, "Tell me a joke." Stalin said, "Stalingrad." Hitler said, "I don't get it." Stalin said, "Exactly." Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at Axis and Allies Europe 1940, second edition from Renegade Game Studios.
We'll get back to the review in just a moment. I want to take a minute to ask you to check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about history, books on history, military history. I even post some of my lectures for my classes on there. Please check that out. Please subscribe to that channel. And now, back to the review.
In Axis and Allies Europe 1940, second edition from Renegade Game Studios, players take on the roles of either the Axis powers of Germany and Italy or the Allied powers of Britain, France, the United States, and the Soviet Union as they clash for dominance in Europe. Axis and Allies has been around for a super long time. I'm not going to get into the weeds of the rules. I'm just going to give you a basic overview, tell you some of the few things that are a little bit different about this game, then give you my thoughts. Now, this game actually starts in 1940 in the middle of the Western offensive by Germany. Essentially, Germany has already conquered Poland at this point, and it has already invaded the Low Countries, and it's just moving into France. Now, as this is going on, as Germany is in the process of invading France, of course, Britain is a belligerent, and it is also contributing to the struggle against the Germans, while the Soviet Union and the United States at this point still remain neutral. Now, on a player's turn, there's several steps they do. First of all, they buy new units. Now, you have an IPC tracker. It says essentially how many IPCs you're going to collect, industrial production certificates, which are represented by the numeric value of different geographic locations. Whatever geographic locations you've got on the board, that will contribute to where you are on the IPC track. You will also get, depending on certain conditions, certain objectives you meet, you will also gain some bonus IPCs that you can also use. So at the beginning of the round, you take those IPCs, and you go ahead and you purchase new units. And there's a breakdown of different units. For land units, you have got infantry, you've got artillery, you've got mech infantry, you've got tanks. For air units, you have fighters, tactical bombers, and strategic bombers. And for naval units, you have aircraft carriers, battleships, cruisers, destroyers, submarines, and transports. After you've purchased all of the units that you want, then you move to your combat movement. Essentially, you go around the board selecting which of your units you want to move into zones with your enemy and engage in combat in an attempt to conquer that area or just eliminate the enemy there. So you go ahead and you start moving your units into these zones. Once you've got all of your combat set up, you proceed to the combat phase. In combat, each unit has a numeric value assigned to it. For instance, battleships, strategic bombers on the offensive, they've got a 4 or less, right? They're going to roll on a 4 or less. Battleship, I think it's 4 or less attack or defend. Infantry is going to attack on 1, but it'll defend on 2. If it's got accompanying artillery, it can attack on 2. Uh, so you go ahead, you see what numbers you're going to be on the attack board or on the defense board, and the attacker begins to roll all of their dice. Hits then are applied to the defender. They remove their units to the casualty strip, and while they're there, they're out of the game, but they can still respond for one round of combat since combat is taking place simultaneously. So the defender then can roll all of their die for all of their units, and then they're going to remove theirs that were taken out of the game, and the attacker sustains units that are immediately taken out of the game. So players go back and forth, rolling for combat until either one side is completely eliminated or the attacker at the beginning of a combat round chooses to retreat. Now, after you have conquered an enemy territory, you can go ahead, you can put your control marker there, and if there is a numeric IPC value, you can adjust that by moving your IPC value up, and whoever lost it, their IPC value down. After you've done all this, you can go ahead and go to your non-combat movement phase. Essentially, you can reposition any of your units on the board within their movement abilities to any other position on the board, provided they did not participate in combat during that round. Once you have repositioned all of your units to where you want them, you then can place those units that you bought at the beginning of your game round. Now, you can only buy them in you can only place them rather in industrial production centers. Now, on the board, you have major industrial centers from which you can produce rather up to 10 units, and then you have minor production facilities, industrial facilities, in which you can only produce 3 units. So you can go ahead, you can divide those between those industrial centers however you want. Finally, at the end of your turn, you can go ahead and collect IPCs from wherever you are on the board. You collect those IPCs, and then there may be some additional conditions or some additional bonuses that allow you to collect more IPCs for them. Now, there are also some tokens on the board, as I mentioned, the industrial production centers, and you have the ability to build new minor production centers on the board in different places. You also have the ability to build air bases, which can extend air range. You have naval bases, which can extend air range, and also repair damaged battleship and carrier, since they take 2 hits in combat instead of just 1. You can go ahead and repair those at naval facilities. Now, industrial production facilities, your naval bases, your air bases, they can all be attacked, and their effectiveness can be diminished over the course of the game with strategic bombing raids. Now, as I say at the beginning of the game, the United States and the Soviet Union are neutral. The Soviet Union cannot get into the war, cannot declare war until its 4th game turn. The United States cannot declare war until its 3rd turn, but only on its collect income phase. So right at the end of the turn, allowing it to collect extra income. This simulates the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. Now, the Axis can win the game if it can control a total of 8 victory cities, including at least one of their initial capitals, Berlin or Rome. The victory cities are big red cities that are printed on the board. The Allied powers win the game if they can conquer both Berlin and Rome and hold at least one of their original capitals. So whichever side meets their victory objectives first wins. Axis and Allies, Europe 1940, 2nd edition. So, okay, Axis and Allies. Now, I recently reviewed the Pacific Axis and Allies version here, so I'm not going to get into a lot of the stuff I discussed there about my lifelong love with Axis and Allies, how Axis and Allies led to my career as a military historian, etc., etc., etc. You can go ahead, you can check that one out, and you can get that spiel there. But suffice it to say, I do love Axis and Allies. This is a very fun game and a very interesting and engaging game. Now, here's the dealio. I do have a few comments here about this edition. Now, I had the original, I think they came out around 2000 or so, the original Pacific and the original Europe. Now, in the original Europe, one thing I really appreciated is you have this. I mean, this board was essentially Europe. You had like a little representation of the United States off to the side, and then of course the strip of the top of North Africa there. This edition, you've got Europe, but you've also got all of Africa, you've got all of South America, and then you've got the eastern part of North America there. So it's much more than Europe, and this is, of course, you can combine this with the Pacific set to create the global game, which I have not done. Maybe one day, I don't know, we'll see. The board here is much more than just Europe, and I kind of missed having kind of that focusing in of just Europe. I really appreciated kind of looking like you were actually moving through Europe, and kind of feeling like I wish the spaces were even smaller, so there was more of that. But one thing I do like about the map here in the revised edition is there's a lot of spaces on the board that don't have an IPC value, okay? And I think that's pretty cool. And also I like that I mean, it makes sense, particularly in Russia, right? There's a lot of spaces in Russia you got to go to that really don't give you anything, but you need to go in there in order to advance further. So I like that. Also, I didn't mention you've got the way they handle neutrals in here. I actually like a bit. You have strict neutrals that have an infantry number on them. If anybody can invade them on their combat move, but then you're going to be fighting that infantry that spawns from one of the allies. They spawn their infantry there. But you also have pro-axis leaning neutrals and pro-allied leaning neutrals. And on a non-combat move, if let's say an axis moves a guy into a pro-axis nation, then essentially that becomes part of your nation, your economy, and the troops there actually become your troops. They join you. So it's pretty cool the way that neutral system works. It's pretty simple, but it's pretty good. It's pretty elegant. I like that. So I played this game the other day with Ray, my good friend Ray, and he had never played an Axis and Allies game before, and he's really excited because he'd heard a lot about it. And so we sit down, we start playing this game, and I found, like I said, a lot of these things I really like. I like the neutrals. I like the little objectives that you get. Like if the United States is at war, or if the Soviet Union's at war, it gets certain things, but while it's a peace, it doesn't. Germany gets like an extra 5 IPCs if it's a peace with the Soviet Union, representing the trade agreements, and then they lose that when they go to war, but potentially there's other things they gain. Germany also gets like a bonus if it's got at least one unit in Egypt. Italy gets bonuses if the Mediterranean is free of Allied ships, so there's all sorts of bonuses you can get, and I really like those because as you're playing the game, you're also kind of chasing these little things to give you more economic power, and I really like that quite a bit. So this game we were playing was actually pretty fun. I was the Axis, he was the Allies, and I mean he was inexperienced, and also God love him, I was rolling really good, and I was kind of going with these just aggressive moves right off the bat around the board, and they were paying off. Italy took Egypt. I took out the Mediterranean fleet, the British Mediterranean fleet, and he was not rolling very good, so I was walking away unscathed. Then, of course, what I really found I liked here is, as Germany, and not having played this edition, I'm trying to decide what's the optimum time to attack Russia. When should I go after Russia? And the fact of the matter was, I waited until I attacked him on my fourth turn, so just literally before he could have attacked me. And what I found was, I go in there and kind of like Barbarossa, I actually did. I crippled all the stuff he had there on the front line. I crippled most of that right off the bat. And that was very satisfying. But I was rolling really well too, and I still had a lot of my air power, and I was rolling really well. And of course, the way the units are playing off each other, so if you're attacking with accompanying artillery, you get a better shot. Fighters that are pairing with tactical bombers go from 3 attack to 4 attack. So some of this stuff's playing, and I'm doing it really well, and I'm using it really well. And I was able to push through, and I got I think my panzers were like a space away from Moscow. There was very little. I think he had like 3 tanks in Stalingrad, a few holdouts in Leningrad, but I'm just right there at the gates of Moscow, and he wasn't coming back from that. Not only that, this is happening at the same time he has really marshaled the United States, and he's bringing troops. I think he only had like 3 transports, so he's got like 6 infantry coming at me. Meanwhile, I've fortified the hell out of France. I've got a lot of units right there on the coast, but I got like 6 panzers in Paris to respond. If he does get a lot, a beachhead, I can just move those guys in and take him out offensively. And so it was to the point where he missed some opportunities. There were some rookie mistakes he made. He wasn't as aggressive enough, I think, with the British, and a lot of other things there. Anyway, long story short, too late. He conceded after that round. I think we played through another round because I invaded, and then I got real close to Moscow, and that was that next turn. So I guess it was the 5th game turn he conceded. But it was just a great time, and I forgot how much I truly, truly love Axis and Allies. It's such a simple system, and as I mentioned in my review of the Pacific version, I love War Room, and War Room's my favorite game. It's designed by Larry Harris, who designed Axis and Allies, and I think I like the conclusion I've come to is I like War Room as a big multiplayer experience. I love playing with 6, and I've been very fortunate over the years. I played several games with 6 players, and I played the smaller game scenarios with like 3 players and stuff, and that was good, but I really like it as this massive 6-player experience. I think I prefer Axis and Allies as a 2-player game. You can certainly play with more players, but some people are going to be on the sidelines. Like America's not coming into it pretty soon. Russia's not coming into it pretty soon. So I think really it shines as a 2-player game. So I really like that. Now, one caveat I do have here, one thing I'm not wild about with Axis and Allies, and that is with this European game, this edition, is the fact that you've got the IPC Trek. Now, in the original versions of the game, you actually had money that you would pay out. And here with the bonuses, it's a little unclear because you could always save money, right, and carry that over. But here it's unclear if the IPC track is just tracking actual IPCs you've taken on the board, which I think it needs to, right? So it's not, it just makes it very difficult to track without some actual currency. So I actually, when we played this, drawing on my lessons from when I played Pacific with Kim, when Ray and I played Europe, I actually got some coins out from another game, and we used those as currency, and it worked a lot better. We were able to much better keep track of how much money we had and how much we could spend every round. And with the bonuses and stuff, it just works best. So I would highly recommend using some form of currency when you play this game. That's my only real thing I'm not wild about these editions here. Now, one other point I want to make, and that is you've got the Pacific, you got the Europe, you can smush them together for the global game, which would be epic. I don't know that I'll ever get around to that anytime soon. At that point, I don't know, maybe as a two-player it might be fun, but honestly, at that point, I think I might prefer to just do War Room if I can get it to the table. However, having said that, let's say your name isn't Rockefeller and you want to buy one of these games. You want to buy Europe or Pacific and you don't know which one to buy. I've got to be honest, I really did enjoy Europe quite a bit. And frankly, as a historian, my background is in Europe, the rise of the Nazi Party, and the war in Europe. But I find the game that I had more fun with is the Pacific game because I like that. I like the naval stuff. And you're dealing with these big, expensive ships. It just seemed like it was a better tactical problem, a strategic problem in the an operational problem. Boy, I hit them all in the Pacific. And while it's good and fun in Europe, I don't know. There's just something about that Pacific game that I really enjoy. They're both fun, however. If you can, get them both. They're fantastic. Recommendation for the discriminating gamer for Axis and Allies Europe 1940. Second edition is buy it. Well, thank you once again for joining us on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We'd ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. I'd also ask you to check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about military history, books on history. I post some of my lectures on there. I would ask you to please check that out. Please subscribe. That would mean a lot to me. Also, we'd ask you to leave a thumb to this video on Board Game Geek. Now, if you are a fan of the channel and you like the content we bring you here, we would humbly ask you to go ahead and click on the Super Thanks button on this YouTube page and leave a tip. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I used to teach English in Germany. The first day, I taught them everything beginning with the letter A. The second day, I taught them everything beginning with the letter B. D-Day was tricky. I've got 2, 1 hit. I've got 1, 2.
See, I don't want to lose him.
You can take 1 hit on the battleship.
Oh, okay. Battleship can take 2 hits.
Yep. Okay, so I've got 1, 2.
And he has to be the last.
Yeah.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 4, 3. 2 hits.
Okay. I think we're just going to take
1, 2, 3, 4.
1 there, and we'll probably just have to take the battleship out.
You probably want. That's the most expensive. I'd probably take out.
I thought about. Well, it's a French.
Because he can repair. You know.
Yeah, but
you're
also rolling 4. You need 4 4s. We need 4s or less.
Yeah.
4 dice.
I got 4 and 4. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Which is 1, 2.
Yeah, you're going.
It takes 2.
So go ahead.
1, 2, and then my third is this guy right here.
Yeah. So go ahead. You got 1 at 2.
Okay.
Miss. You've got 2 at 3.
3.
1 hit, and I will take that on my battleship. And then you've got
1 4.
Yep. And I'll lose this up.
Okay.
I guess I thinned you out the first time. Holy crap!
My lone soldier, baby. Okay. Give me a 1. Give me a 1.
He killed one guy. He's
all
happy.
Now he can die in peace.